At a garrison in southern Texas known as the Alamo, nearly 260 men, women, and children prepare for a siege. Among their commanders is celebrated frontiersman Davy Crockett. Outside the walls, close to 5,000 Mexican troops, led by the ruthless General Santa Anna, surround the mission.
The Texians believed that Santa Anna's troops were 2 months out. But once Crockett got to the Alamo and it became clear that Santa Anna's troops were on the march and they were much closer than had been anticipated, there was no getting out of it at this point for Crockett.
All right, close it up. All right, stand the walls. Let's go, go, go!
This massive, well-trained army, you know, surrounding this little mission in the middle of the desert. The Alamo looks like a complete disaster waiting to happen.
Outnumbered 15-1, Crockett knows the odds of survival are bleak.
Man, there's a thing that happens when death's at the door. Most people don't know when the Reaper's gonna show up, right? You just kinda, hopefully you die in peace or you die quickly. When you see the Reaper standing outside the door and you know he's coming in here for us, your world just kinda lends perspective in that moment. What was important, what's not important, who I wish I would've talked to. Man, it's a hell of a thing to go through that.
Over the course of an hour, Crockett and the Texans repelled the Mexican advances 3 times. But Santa Anna is relentless, accepting heavy losses to breach the fortress.
Santa Anna sent his troops from many different sides, wave after wave after wave of men who scaled ladders and swarmed literally like locusts.
Davy Crockett did what many American patriots have done, and that is decide to stay and fight for a cause in the face of an attacking enemy. And it speaks volumes about him and about his character.
"90 minutes after the battle begins, the Mexican army takes the Alamo. Almost all of the fort's defenders are killed.
Most accounts suggest that Crockett was in some of the heaviest fighting and that he was one of the last remaining survivors. They were led out and executed right in front of Santa Anna. Then they were loaded into 3 separate human pyres and lit of flame. For Crockett to live this incredible life on the frontier and then die at the Alamo sealed him as legendary.
Davy Crockett was not this kind of backwoods outdoorsman entirely. He was a man with great political ambitions who got into trouble because he was also very independent-minded, so he wouldn't always play ball with the political establishment. Crockett was always the congressman of the little guy. It is that underdog struggle, fighting against a tyranny. And so the story of Davy Crockett going down swinging, fighting to the very last man, the very last breath, feeds the legend of the king of the wild frontier.
Word of the slaughter at the Alamo soon spreads across the country. Enraging Americans in Washington, President Andrew Jackson sees the defeat in Texas as a much bigger concern. By 1836, Mexico is a significant territorial rival in North America. Mexico controls land stretching from California to the border of Oregon, covering more than 1.7 million square miles. The U.S. hasn't added a new state since Missouri in 1821, and the promise of expansion west feels stalled.
Andrew Jackson was among those Americans who believed that Texas ought to be part of the United States. But Jackson was also a man with a keen strategic sense who wanted to strike at the right moment. Didn't want to have a war with Mexico just then. Didn't think the time was right.
If Texas can win its own independence, Jackson can bring it into the Union. Until then, his hands are tied. Fortunately for Jackson, one Texan sees the crushing loss at the Alamo as an opportunity. His name is Sam Houston.
Crockett and Sam Houston both served in Andrew Jackson's militia during the Creek War. Houston became famous for the Battle of Horseshoe Bend, where he was impaled through the groin with an arrow and had one of his other soldiers yank it out, and he just kept on fighting. And Houston also was really a rugged frontiersman.
Houston is now the leader of some 370 untrained men. They comprise the Army of Texas. And their fight for independence isn't over. To increase his numbers in the face of a much larger enemy, Houston calls on Texans to avenge Crockett's death and remember the Alamo.
The way I see it,
The defeat at the Alamo ended up creating a great rallying cry of patriotism to fight for independence and to fight to the death, to fight to the end.
it is really important that we make sure.
Hundreds of angry Texans are drawn to the cause of independence. In just a month, Houston's army swells to nearly 1,000. They're positioned near the San Jacinto River, right in the path of General Santa Anna and 1,500 Mexican troops. Just 6 weeks after Crockett's death at the Alamo, Sam Houston takes his revenge, unleashing 900 furious Texans against a larger Mexican force. Santa Anna is camped near the San Jacinto River, where the Texans surprise them.
Ultimately, the Battle of San Jacinto only lasted 18 minutes. It was a chaotic 18 minutes. I don't think anyone expected the battle to go this way.
Over 630 Mexican soldiers are killed. The Texans suffer just 11 casualties. The crushing defeat leads to Mexico's surrender. And Texas finally wins independence.